Do you know what's the difference between this chain and this chain? How do we know which is the right size of chain for our bike between 415, 520, 530? How do we know if our chain is going to break soon? How do we choose the correct front sprocket? How do we choose the correct rear sprocket? All these things are fundamental because the transmission is one of the most important parts of the bike, but many riders don't know them because they don't teach us at riding school. This is the reason why I decided to make this video to explain you everything you need to know about the motorbike's transmissions. So I came to Ogni Bene, which is an Italian and worldwide leader in the field of motorbike transmissions. The company was founded in 1948, more than 70 years ago, by Dante Ogni Bene. And at the beginning, it was just a simple shop and distributor of motorbike parts. Then they decided to specialize in transmissions, not only about motorbikes, but also the industrial ones, like this one. First of all, we need to understand the different sizes of chains. 530, 525, 520, 428, 420, 415, in order to understand which one is the best for our bike. But before this, we need to understand one very important thing. Long time ago, people used to buy the parts separately. You used to buy the sprocket to one shop and the chain to the other shop. But what was the problem? The problem is that many times people bought the wrong parts. For example, you may have bought some incompatible parts, and if you were lucky, you realized it immediately. But if you were not, you may have installed them on the bike and then bad things happened. But this is normal because the average user, the average rider is not an expert mechanic. So everyone like me and you don't know everything about the bike. The user must be driven to buy the right parts without making mistakes. So Ogni Bene many years ago invented the kit where you can find inside the chain and the sprockets. And when you buy the kit, you are sure that every part is compatible. So this is their kit Trofeo, and let's see what's inside. If you open it, you can find the front sprocket, and you're probably wondering what is this red thing. You will find out soon. I will explain you later. You find the rear sprocket, which it also has the rubber, which has been patented by Ogni Bene. You obviously find the chain, and they give you for free the chain lube. You say lube or lube? You understood what I mean. And the tool to rivet the chain. If you don't know what it is for, I will show you in a few minutes. And the cool thing is that if you go on the Ogni Bene website and you fill the form with your motorbike, the search engine gives you all the options you have for your bike. Now, which size should you choose for your bike? You have two different measures for every chain. Let's start from the street and racing bikes. And with racing bike, I mean the bike that goes on tarmac, okay? Chains have two different measures. You have the pitch and the width. The pitch is the measure you have from pin to pin, which is from this point to this point. While with the width, you measure the inside of the chain, which is from this point to that point. You have two different types of pitch, which are both calculated in inches. You have half inch, which are all the chains that start with 4, and 5/8 of inch, which are all the chains that start with 5. Now here I have the most common size you can find for your bike. For the half inch, you have the 415, 420, 428, while for the 5/8 of inch, you have the 520, 525, and 530. As I said, 4 and 5 mean pitch, while the other numbers mean the width of the chain. So, in order to make an example, if we take the 520, we're taking the 5/8 of inch sides with the smallest width. While if we take the 428, we're taking the half inch of the highest width. Now, where do we use each one of these chains? The half inch are used on the small bikes, like 50cc, 125cc, while the 5/8 of inch are used on the big bikes, like Hyper Naked, Maxi Enduro, super bikes. The reason is simple. The bigger the chain, the heavier and the more resistant it is. While the smaller the chain, the lighter and the less resistant it is. So if you put this chain, which is a 415, on a super bike with 130 horsepower, I don't know how many meters you can make before it blows up. Okay, now we understood where you want to use the 4 and where you want to use the 5. But what about the width? A wider chain means a heavier chain and a more resistant chain, while a thinner chain means a lighter chain but less durable. So if you have a Yamaha MT-09 and you use it every day to go to work, to school, to go out on the Sunday in your favorite road, you would choose a 525 or 530. While if you have a Yamaha R1 and you do track days, races, and you want to beat the best lap time of your friend, you want to use a 520, which is lighter, less durable, but more performing. For example, I don't know if you remember, but I broke the chain with the Yamaha R3 while I was training in the kart circuit. And the question is, why did I break the chain? The reason is simple. I was training in a kart track where you always go in second, third, fourth gear. You always accelerate hard, you jump on the curbs. That means you stress a lot the chain. And the problem is we were using a 415 chain on that bike. So what happened? If I use that bike to race in the World Championship, where you can change the chain every race, it's fine. But if I want to use the bike for the whole year to train in the kart track, which is not the World Championship track, it would have probably been better to put a 520, which is the chain for the bigger bikes. And I didn't care about the performance, it was just my training bike, I just wanted it to last many kilometers. So the 415 was not the right choice for that bike. So this is everything you need to know about the chains. What about the sprockets? Exactly like the chains, the choice for the sprockets depends on how we're going to use them. All the front sprockets are made of steel, while the rear sprockets can be made either of steel or in ergal, which is a special kind of aluminum. So, if we use the bike to make a lot of kilometers, we stress it a lot and we want the sprockets to last long, we will choose the steel sprockets. That's because they are heavier but more resistant. While if you use the bike for sport or for racing, you want to choose a front sprocket with the holes, which makes it lighter, and a rear sprocket made of ergal, which is much lighter. And look at the difference. Steel sprocket, 1.5 kilos. Ergal sprocket, half kilo. It's 3 times lighter. Just to give you an idea, the steel sprockets last around 20,000 kilometers, while the ergal sprocket, if they last 10,000 kilometers, you must celebrate. One very important thing. If you have the 16 front sprocket, you remove it and you put the smaller one, which is the 15, and for your information, that number just indicates how many teeth the sprocket has. So if you put the 15 instead of the 16, the chain will last less kilometers. The 15 front sprocket shorten the life of the chain. This is very important to know for the road user. And one other very important thing is that the sprockets are compatible only if they have the same size. So if you put a 520 sprocket on a 530 chain, it will not be good. Even if the pace is the same, you will break the transmission. So don't do it. Yeah, because obviously the size of the chain is the same for the sprocket. A 5-pitch chain can be used only with a 5-pitch sprocket, and a 30-width chain can be used only with a 30-width sprocket. Okay, that was everything about the road bikes. What about the cross and off-road bikes? When we talk about the chains, you have 2 different types, whether you use them for the road bike or the off-road bike. You have the chain with the O-ring, which we should call X-ring, and the X-ring is this tiny little thing, which is X-shaped, that's why it's called X-ring. And we have the chains without X-ring. Now, the X-ring is this tiny little thing which is used to keep the lube inside the chain. So the chain with the X-ring has the lube built inside the chain, and the X-ring keeps the lube inside. While in the chain without X-ring, you put the lube with So, in the off-road, you use the chain without X-ring. This is for 2 reasons. First of all, when you put the lube on the chain, the lube goes inside and lubrify the chain. The second reason is that when you wash the bike, you may break the X-ring. And you know that in the off-road, you wash the bike every day because the bike gets very dirty. While on the road bikes, you use the chain with the X-ring because they last longer. Now, how do you understand whether the chain has the X-ring or not? You can look, or you can pick up the chain. Look at the difference. Look at how the road chain is more rigid, while the off-road chain is super smooth. Now, why these differences? Because on the off-road, you change the chain very frequently. You can change the chain after 20 hours, while on the road bikes, you change the chain after a long time. And just to be clear, you can put the off-road chain on your Yamaha R1. It fits because these 2 chains are the same size. The only thing that will happen is that it will break very soon, and that would not be safe. This is the reason why Ogni Bene created the kit. Because these two chains fit on the same bikes, so people might get wrong. So they built the kit so that people don't put the wrong chain on the wrong bike. Moreover, these two chains have a very important difference. The way you close the chains are different. On the off-road you use some kind of spring, which is not super resistant, but it doesn't matter because you change the chain very often. While on the road bike, you use the riveted connector, which is much safer. About the sizes, for the cross chains, you will find 420, 428 and 520. And the 520 is the most common size. So we talked about the chain. What about the off-road and the road sprockets? The difference is very simple. In the cross sprocket you have this, which allows the chain to drain the mud, while on the road sprocket you don't have it. Okay, now that we know everything about the sizes and which chain and sprocket to use, let's talk about this. This is some special rubber that you probably have seen on some bikes, and if you're going around a bike with this rubber, you should know that this sprocket is made by Ogni Bene. This is a special invention, and this rubber creates a silent transmission. That's because when the chain touches the sprocket, the noise is reduced by the rubber. And it doesn't reduce just the noise, it also reduces the vibrations. So this is the ideal transmissions for the road. Okay, now that we know everything about the sizes and the type of chains and sprockets, let's go to the workshop and let's see how to take care of the transmission and how to see if the transmission is good or bad. Well, actually this video already got too long, so I decided to split in two parts. So get ready because a new video is coming soon where we will go to the workshop and see how to maintain and check the transmissions. Subscribe now in order not to lose it, and see you soon. Bye bye!